This video is brought to you by Squarespace. Welcome back, everyone. In this video, we are going to check out some amazing work submitted by viewers like you. I've got some really cool books and zines that I want to go through, but first I want to talk a little bit about the Hasselblad Masters competition. If you are not familiar with the Hasselblad Masters competition, I've been talking about this year's entries for a little while now. We've had the deadline for submissions, and now the competition has entered the public phase for voting, and you can vote as well. And one of the things that I love about this, it's one of my favorite competitions, especially one that's sponsored by a camera company. But what's really cool is this one has a prize involved for the winners, which gives everybody, first of all, a 100 megapixel Hasselblad, 2 lenses, and then it gives them also a 5,000 euro creative budget to work with. The winners of this competition will go shoot with Hasselblad cameras, and then they will actually submit their work that will be published in a book that they do every year. And it's really cool. It's a really nice way of kind of celebrating the Hasselblad community and what the camera system is all about and what people are doing with it, which is really cool. So if you want to check out the entries and the finalists, and you could possibly vote as well, I'll show you how to do that. So you're going to head over to Hasselblad.com, and what you're going to do is scroll down and click on the Masters competition. Now you do have to be logged in. It's free to create an account, but you're going to be able to go in here and you can actually review all of the entries, all the finalists that are in here, and vote on the work that you like the best. So when you go in, you're going to see the 6 categories. And so for instance, if you want to see the street work that's been done, you can click on that. You'll go in and it gives you the opportunity to vote on portfolios here on a scale of 1 to 5 stars. Obviously, more stars indicate a higher score. This is a cool way that you can pick out the work that you think is actually the best. Another thing that I really love about this competition is there's a category in here called Project 21, and this is open to photographers at a younger age, under the age of 21, and there's some really impressive work in here, actually. So I really encourage you guys to go check this out. I've mentioned the Masters competition as we've been leading up to this, and I actually got a message from somebody the other day expressing their regret that they didn't get in. Whether you've got in or not, I don't know anybody's name in here. I would love to say my favorites in here, but I don't want to sway the competition in any way. But I do suggest you go over and check this out, because I think this competition obviously suggests some of the better work that's being done. Go support your colleagues, your fellow photographers, and go look at the work they've submitted and what's actually been chosen. I think that this is a lot that you can learn from. There's some really impressive stuff in here. You may not like everything, but that's why you're here to vote. And so I strongly recommend that you go over and check this out. So Hasselblad Masters competition, you go to Hasselblad.com. I'll put all the details in the show description below. But more importantly, let's get to some of your work today. All right, so first up, we have a book and more of a zine, smaller book. These come to us from a gentleman named Philip Friedman from the UK. First one we're going to look at is this little book called Venice, and Philip also includes a letter which reads, "Dear Ted, thank you for your channel, which I have been following for some time. I am a property owner here in London, and I've been a keen amateur photographer for over 60 years. Over that time, I have taken many photographs, both pictorial and what is now called street photography. Inspired by some of Ralph Gibson's books, I laid out the images in pairs, either by colors and tones or by shapes. I would be interested in knowing your reaction. While most of the images were taken on Nikon DSLRs, some are from scans of old Kodachrome color slides, and a few were taken on rangefinder or mirrorless cameras, and others were taken on an iPhone. Goes to show you how little it matters and which equipment one uses. Kindest regards, Philip." You know, Philip, I really love that last statement, because when you get into the printing side of things, and I've told this to students for a long time, especially those who take my zine workshops, is that it really doesn't matter in the end. We've gotten to a point where the technology is really out-resolving, out-dynamic ranging, is that a word? We're just dealing with a higher amount of information digitally than what you're even going to see in print in the end. And I really love that attitude with this book. So I want to talk about a few things in here. First of all, I love your layout. This is really nice. You definitely have a nod to Ralph Gibson in here, but I don't think you're really copying Ralph Gibson. It's just the whole idea of treating each spread as just that, as a spread. And the images relate to each other as you go across. And sometimes as you turn the page, they relate to one another. And while I think you've taken some cues from Ralph, and especially when an image definitely needs to change its aspect ratio or its size or its relationship with the image that it's facing, your work has an interesting style and color that I don't see Ralph doing, and I really love how you've put that together. I really love your colors. Nothing's oversaturated. It's just right. The color work in here is very beautiful, and I know you did this on Blurb. I'm really impressed with the quality you got out of here. You didn't put your name on here anywhere. It's not until you open it up. But other than that, I really like this. Now, I also want to mention that Philip also had a try at a little black and white zine here, which I really like too. This is called Body Language. Body language is just that. And one of the things that I want to note about this is when you get into street photography and you're dealing with people and you're dealing with the whole idea of gesture or figure, It's very difficult because you have to kind of stay and wait and stick with images when you're waiting on somebody to react a certain way or do a certain thing. And so I'm really impressed with your stab at this. I think some of your images are probably more successful than others, and so I'd love to see you continue this. The other thing is this definitely reminds me of the Elliott Erwitt Handbook. And if you're not familiar with that book, it's a book that Elliott did where basically everything deals with gesture and hands. It's a really interesting play on things. And Philip, you've got a really good eye and you're doing some really good work. I just want to say keep it up. Thank you for sharing your work. It is quite awesome. All right, so next up is another nice little piece that comes to us from the UK. This is from Chris Wilson. This is called Output 001. Chris also enclosed a note which reads, "Dear Ted, I am a game developer from the UK with a lifelong interest in photography and a big fan of the channel. I particularly enjoy watching all the viewer mail videos, and they have been a big inspiration behind the book that I've sent to you. I wanted to make a photo book for a long time, but never felt good enough. However, in early 2019, I gave myself permission to try and make something, and I'm glad I did. I started with a commitment to carry a camera with me at all times. I chose film rather than digital as it forced me to focus on the process and not worry about the result. From this commitment, I built a routine where I went out every day and took pictures of anything that interested me. I didn't worry about how it all might come together. And as I began to reflect on the photos, I realized the work I'd captured, how I felt, was important to me during a difficult time in my life, and I think a key factor behind this was the fact that 90% of these were taken within walking distance of my front door. Going through this process has given me the confidence to know that if I focus on the input, the output will naturally flow. I still carry the same camera with me every day." Chris also includes a link to his Instagram and where you can get a copy of this if you so desire. I will put all of that stuff for all of the photographers that I'm showcasing in the show description below. Chris, let's talk about Output 001. I think for a first effort, this is really cool. One of the things that really strikes me that you say in your letter here is that you gave yourself permission to make something and that you're really glad you did. Really, that's the first step. And I think that's good advice for any photographer out there that is trying to get over that leap of actually starting to produce something. Having said that, I encourage you to continue this. And one of the things that I like about it is that you've compiled everything into a book. I like your black and white work. I think you've got some really interesting themes in here going. What I would really strongly suggest you do at this point for your next venture is start to look through your work and start to find specific themes that come up, and you do have them in here. The one thing that I find just slightly awkward about this book is that you have a lot of wonderful black and white candid photography, and then sort of towards the end we move into these color landscapes, and they're great photos, but they're just not related to what came before them, so I'm trying to find the connection there, and then you go into night photography at the very end. Now, that kind of idea can work as a coda. It's really difficult to do. Coda is a musical term, and basically when you hear a song, and like one that comes to mind is the Beatles' Hey Jude, and at the end they have the na 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 bit, and that's not related. You never heard it earlier in the song, but it relates to the song, and it just takes it out for the ending. And so that's what we would call a coda. And what you have is you have a coda that's set up, but you just don't have it relating to anything else in the book. So something like that might be interesting to try. And again, I'm not slamming on you on this. I think it's a wonderful little piece. It's just kind of jarring when you go into the color work all of a sudden. And so that requires maybe the decision to leave that out, leave it for another project, another book. I don't know. Or maybe, I think the thing to do is try to incorporate it within the black and white photographs. That's a really difficult thing for a lot of photographers to do also. I hear people complain about that all the time. It's very difficult all of a sudden, or they feel it's jarring for their own work to move between color and black and white. But the reality is there are a lot of photographers who do that. So go find people who do that well and see what it is they're doing and what makes it work. Anyway, excellent. I love Output 001. If you guys want to copy this, it is quite good. All right, so next up we have a very lo-fi, this is one of my favorite things, very handmade zine, which is really cool, and I've got a lot of awesome color photography I want to share with you. But real quick, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor today, who are the awesome folks over at Squarespace. How easy is it to build an amazing website in a matter of minutes? Squarespace has you covered. It's dead simple. Head over to Squarespace, hit get started. You can start by using Squarespace Blueprint AI and SEO tools, which will give you an impressive website in no time. Something unique because, you're not like other websites. Give your site a name. Next, you can build your homepage. We'll start with a few preset layouts just to get us going. Want to sell products like prints, books, maybe you make a zine? Well, you can feature those on your homepage. Create a few more sections if you want. Let's also give it a color palette. There's a whole bunch to choose from. Just get us started. We can change this all later. Next, let's select the typography choices. Welcome to your website. Everything is set up and it's all ready for you to customize. Squarespace is built on Fluid Engine, the next generation of website design. Select Edit, and Fluid Engine allows you to drag, place, and resize any element on the page. You can snap these to a grid, you can make them float on top of one another, you can freeform however you like. You can even preview and adjust how the site looks on either desktop or mobile. The layouts are independent. Of course, you'll want a portfolio for your work. Creating an image gallery is as easy as dropping a folder of images on your web browser. Once uploaded, you can drag to resort, customize the look, and Squarespace writes all of the code for you. Everything just works and it looks fabulous. Want to sell your own prints, books, or zines? Flexible payments allow you to make the checkout process absolutely seamless when you sell products or services. You can accept credit cards, PayPal, Apple Pay, and in eligible countries, you can offer customers the option to buy now and pay later with Afterpay and ClearPay. You should try Squarespace for yourself. It's absolutely free, no credit card required. Just go to squarespace.com/AOP, sign up for that free trial. If you decide Squarespace is right for you, I can save you an additional 10% on your order by using offer code AOP on checkout. That's right, the code is AOP. So stop procrastinating, go build your website today. And I want to give a special shout out and thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. All right, so next up is this zine, which is a little bit quirky, and one of the reasons that I really love it. This comes to us from Michigan, from a photographer named Mark Einfeldt, aka Felt Fesky. So this zine is entirely handmade, and it's done with the Harinezumi, which is a very tiny micro four thirds plastic camera. It's kind of like a digital Holga in some ways, which is pretty awesome. This is all handmade and even hand stapled, which is really cool, all done on an inkjet printer. Mark includes a note in here where he says, "Hi Ted, I love your channel and its content. He started watching me 11 years ago, which is a long time, and he says, now back to the zine. In my mind, this is a real zine, handmade, self-published on an inkjet printer. All of the pictures were taken with the digital Harinezumi, a small lo-fi cult camera that fits in the palm of your hand. I hope you enjoy my photo zine and add it to your collection. Thank you for all the hard work you do. I appreciate it once again." I think Mark kind of states it all with the attitude of this. You know, when I do my zine course, we actually go into what a zine really is. And what people end up making are not only zines, but they also make kind of cheaper made photo books that are sort of zine-like. This really is a very much a zine culture kind of thing. If you guys remember all the skating zines that used to happen back in the 90s, early 2000s. I love that this was done with a weird digital camera, and all I would suggest, Mark, is I want to see more of this. Keep doing it. I would start to, one of the things that you see people do a lot, and you see this with Holga work as well, and I've done it myself, but when you have a cheaper camera, it affects the kinds of photos that you take, and you're going to go for something that's more grungy. And I've always kind of wondered, what if you start to formalize that just a little bit, whether it's a Holga or whether it's a digital point and shoot or something like that, where you're using the cheap quality. It's going to be a zine in the end, but just formalize the photographs just a little bit in the way they relate to each other, the kinds of themes and subjects that you're dealing with. I'd just love to see more of this. So Mark, thank you very much for sharing. If you guys want a copy of this, I'll link him up below. All right, so next up is a series of 4 calendars that are sent from Minnesota, and I apologize, Ken. Ken Klose is the gentleman's name, and he writes in here that he's from Staples in the center of Minnesota, and for some reason I read that is he's from the Staples Center in Minnesota, but he's not in Minneapolis. He is in rural Minnesota. Anyway, he sent these 4 calendars in, and these are really nice. I'll share a little bit of his note with you. Ken writes, "Dear Ted, I enjoy your YouTube channel and your perspective on photography as art. I'm a 77-year-old man living in a small town of Staples in the center of Minnesota. I have a passion for photography, and like most who are passionate about something, I think everyone should share my passion. For the past several years, I have been making calendars to give away to people I hope will appreciate them. At first, I printed and bound them in my studio, but after the past 3 years, and now 2024, I've had them lab printed. That way I can afford to have 30 or 40 made to give away. I'm enclosing one from each of the past 3 years, plus the 2024 version for you, hopefully to enjoy. The calendar project, for me, is a good way of seeing some of my work in print, sharing it with others, and providing motivation to keep going out there and enjoying my passion. Thanks for your time, Ken." So Ken, thanks for the calendars. I really love this idea. The whole thing with the calendar, and of course, you know, a lot of people do these, where you can actually, you're going to have a photo that stays up all month when you hang it up on a wall. So for April, you get to look at this photo the entire month. And I like the idea of matching up photos by seasons and by months and things like that. And it's a really cool idea. The only thing that kind of drives me nuts is every photo has a hole in it. at the top, and let me explain why. Your November shot is really cool, and it's got this really cool graphic pattern to it, and I keep seeing that as a figure on the ground, which is just kind of a little weird, but I guess after looking for it for a whole month, you probably get used to it. All teasing aside though, Ken, I really enjoy the calendars. I think you've got a really good eye for color. I love your sense of reflection. These are really nice, and I'll link up to Ken's work if you want to check it out below. So I want to thank everybody for sending stuff in today. As always, you guys do amazing stuff. I'm super excited. I will catch you guys in the next video. Until then, later.